Well, the NFL season is flying by. Welcome into a brand new hour of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Haley Sutton. Week 7 kicking off tomorrow. Can you believe it? With the Bengals and the Steelers, there's no MVPs in action in that one, at least right now. But certainly there are some unexpected names in that conversation. So let's meet the second half of our team. Jacqueline D'Agostino standing by with, dare I say, the man of the hour, Drake Maye, in the MVP conversation.
The man of the hour. It's like the team of the hour. For the first time, Haley, since 2019, the Patriots are on top of the division. Their best 6-game start since 2019 when there was some guy named Tom Brady who was the quarterback there. Now we're talking about Drake Maye. And yes, as Haley mentioned, he has kind of put himself into the MVP conversation. The 4th best odds behind, of course, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Baker, and then Drake Maye sitting there at plus 1,000 in the MVP conversation. So let's welcome in our NFL on CBS reporter, Aditi Kinkhabwala, who is joining us now to talk NFL, some headlines, and we got to start with the Patriots, and we got to start with Drake Maye. 4th best odds in the MVP race, Aditi. Based off of what you've seen so far and the schedule that is ahead, is this sustainable? Is his name here to stay in that conversation?
Well, I can tell you that that is his goal, obviously, and I can also tell you that he would shake his head, laugh, and dismiss any of that talk. And I'll tell you why. We had Drake Maye week 1, and week 1 he very explicitly said to us, to get to where I want to go, there's a list of quarterbacks I need to outperform. And at that point, he was talking about facing the AFC North this year. That means Joe Burrow, that means Lamar Jackson, and he also said Josh Allen, who I see twice a year. Okay, so then fast forward to this past week, and of course, he just checked Josh Allen off the list. So I said that to him in our production meeting that, hey, you foretold this a little bit. You got one check mark. And Jacqueline, he shrugged his shoulders and he said, yeah, that's all that it is. It's just one check. It's not enough. He is a different player, though, than he was a year ago. His confidence, his leadership, the way that he is managing the huddle, the way that you watch him bark at his teammates, and I say bark in the best possible way. He knows exactly what he wants and what he expects of his teammates, and this partnership with Josh McDaniels is really just fantastic. McDaniels took the year off last year, lost 30 pounds, spent a ton of time with his daughters, playing pickleball, and visiting what would help him be an even better teacher, an even better coach this year. He said he spent a lot of time talking to coaches about moving the pocket, something he never had to do with Tom Brady, but that he can do with Drake Maye, that Drake Maye is in fact doing very well. And I'll tell you this, when McDaniels was talking about the growth of Maye, he said, honestly, it's tutoring the young quarterbacks that's always been his favorite part of the job. Go all the way back to Matt Castle or Jimmy Garoppolo or Jacoby Brissett or Mac Jones, that long list of guys that he worked with beyond just Tom Brady. And he said that's always been his favorite part. We're seeing the results of that with the growth we're seeing out of Drake Maye every single week.
Yeah, and now he's in the MVP conversation here as we're going into week 7. So the Patriots started off the season with a McDaniels revenge game going up against the Raiders, and now we have another revenge game for Mike Vrabel. This time he's going back to his old stomping grounds, facing the Titans here. And I know when coaches speak, it's like, it's just another game, it's just another game. But Aditi, you have to think, like, I don't know, there's something there that he's got to be thinking about as he's going back. And mind you, with the Titans now just firing his replacement this past week in Brian Callahan.
So, and I think that that's exactly it, Jacqueline, right? He already knows that he's won. The guy that they replaced him with, they already got rid of. He's at the franchise where he is in the Ring of Honor. Mike Vrabel is at the Patriots where he's in the Ring of Honor. He's coaching the club that he played for, and he has this great relationship with ownership and the front office. And he's having full say in what personality he wants his team to play in. That was all conflict in Tennessee. So clearly, he's in much better shape right now. Of course it means something when you go back. Pete Carroll told us that it was a big deal to go back to New England week 1, even though that was so many ages ago. Josh McDaniels told us, of course you feel something when you're facing the Raiders. So yeah, what Mike Vrabel is motivated to do is show that he's in a better place, his team is in a better place, and his team right now is stacking wins. And even though this roster is still not a full 53 deep roster, they're playing in Mike Vrabel's image. It's something that Alvin Kamara said to me even before this game. As a coach, I don't know what more Mike Vrabel can ask for in terms of the personality his players are putting out.
Yeah, and as mentioned, off to their best 6-game start since 2019, when it was, of course, the one and only Tom Brady's last season there in New England. Going to keep it in the division, but want to talk about the Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa had some comments that are kind of causing a stir around the league after the Dolphins' loss on Sunday, kind of saying, like, calling out leadership, his teammates. They're saying they're late or not showing up to player-only meetings. And a lot of us are kind of scratching our heads, Aditi, and thinking, like, hey, you're the captain, you're the quarterback of this team, so you're calling out leadership, but doesn't it, you got to take some accountability, Tua?
Well, it's definitely going to be a question that I'll ask him when we have our production meetings this weekend. It's really fascinating because, of course, a few years ago, I was there in Miami when we had this tremendous conversation with Tua about how Mike McDaniel helped build him back up, rebuild his confidence, showed him how he was a much better player than he was tagged as being under during those Brian Flores years. Well, now here we are, and the Dolphins have been stumbling for years. We've been listening to them talk about how they needed better culture, how they needed to be a tougher team, and yet nothing is happening in that direction. And it's Tua's teammates who have been put on the spot to respond about Tua's comments. Yesterday, the defensive players basically said, talk to the offensive players because the offense meets together to watch the film. The defense doesn't meet with them. A lot of those offensive players said they want to keep those conversations internal, which is, of course, something that head coach Mike McDaniel said. So when we talk this weekend, it'll be interesting to hear where they all are on that. I will say this, though, Jacqueline. People are making a big deal about players watching film only as players. I'll take you back a long time ago. Maybe you were in elementary school at the time. I was covering the Giants, and it was their last Super Bowl year. And they actually would do players-only film sessions on Fridays. It was something that came out of the military debriefing program. And the idea is that you sort of throw the leadership out of the room and you take accountability in front of your peers. And it's something that worked really well for the Giants. Like I said, they won a Super Bowl that year. It's not necessarily a bad thing if players are watching film on their own. Of course, we want to find out the motivation behind this, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's a bad sign. The talk externally and the lack of agreement on that talk, that may be a bad sign, though.
Yeah, and at training camp, when Pete Prisco and I were there, we talked to Tua, we talked to Bradley Chubb, and they had said the culture is different. Like, we know the conversation about us not winning a playoff game. Just trust us. The culture is different this year. So it's interesting to see how it's kind of played out up until, going into week 7. All right, Aditi, one of my favorite divisions in all of football, and I know you can agree with me here, is the AFC North. I love it. I just do. It is like hard-nosed football. Maybe not right now, but I do love the AFC North. And we saw some changes, right? So Mike Tomlin, facing the Cincinnati Bengals, had some comments about the Browns brass and what they were doing in terms of trading Joe Flacco to a divisional rival. And here's what he had to say about it. Take a listen.
To be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
Ooh, whenever Mike Tomlin speaks, I listen. What do you mean? What do you think of those comments, Aditi? Because I was kind of taken aback that he was speaking on it.
Well, okay, first of all, it is fair, right? I mean, it's the first thing I said. Why would you help a division rival? And even if the Browns believe that they can beat Joe Flacco is winning the Bengals more games than Jake Browning is. So are you trying to finish last in your division? It's a fair question. Why would you do that? Number 2, Mike Tomlin has a lot of respect for Joe Flacco, okay? I was there in Indianapolis last year when Anthony Richardson got hurt. Joe Flacco comes in, he defeats the Steelers, and Mike Tomlin even referenced that a few weeks ago when he said he specifically told his players, keep Anthony Richardson upright and in this game because we don't want to see Flacco. Of course, there it is. They saw Flacco, and Flacco engineered that win. Flacco has the most wins, tied with a few other players, against the Steelers all time ever. You remember all those years that he was in Baltimore and all those back and forth battles. So is Mike Tomlin a little peeved that he's seeing Joe Flacco tomorrow night instead of Jake Browning? For sure he is. Did Mike Tomlin just beat the Browns and want to take an opportunity to tweak the Browns a little bit? Sure, of course he does. But maybe there's also a piece of this here where he's sticking up for Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski, because it's not like Kevin Stefanski can sit here and say anything about the quarterback situation that he's been left with, where, of course, he has two rookies in Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders. Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco were both traded away. Bailey Zappi is sitting on the practice squad. And so maybe he's throwing a bone to a colleague of his. Regardless, it makes for great television, don't you think?
Absolutely. Mike Tomlin has given us so many great sound bites that we've used over the years. And you know what, Aditi? We were just talking about, the 2026 draft the other day and talking about the Browns maybe drafting another quarterback. That's always the conversation, right? Aditi, we appreciate it.
It is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, just another list, right? Add it to the infamous jersey with all of the Cleveland Browns quarterbacks on there. NFL and CBS has got you covered for Week 7. The Colts and the Chargers, that's in that 4:05 Eastern Time window. Of course, the Dolphins in action. Just talked about Tua against the Browns. And then the Mike Vrabel revenge game as the Patriots visit the Titans. And then, of course, the Raiders and the Chiefs at 1 p.m. Eastern.